As part of a special preview season for the Edinburgh Festival, Funhouse Comedy in Derby are bringing comedians together from all over the country before they head up to the Fringe in August. Stephen Allen is one of those comics. You may just recognise him from BBC Two's The MASH Reports.
Britain is in the grip of a vomiting epidemic caused by nauseating TV adverts for big shops. The lavish Christmas commercials, typically featuring some kind of bear or child with confidence issues, are so syrupy and cloying that they're causing viewers to be physically sick.
And Steve joins us on the show. Hiya, Steve.
Hello, how you doing?
Yeah, really well. When you take to the stage as a stand-up, do people sometimes panic and think that the night's been interrupted for breaking news?
I think some people do get shocked by the fact that I'm not as sardonic and just one note as the character that I do on that show. So, yeah, I think it's the two in their face, like, this guy's actually come to life. What's happened?
There's so many TV and radio credits in your career. What is it that you love about doing stand-up?
Oh, I don't think there's anything that will ever give you the same rush as standing on stage in front of an audience, telling a joke and it working. And obviously you aim for more than one joke working a night. But even if you only got one, you'd feel good. There is just some connection that I don't know why we humans have it. 'Cause no other animals do this, do they? Where they appear in front of lots of their other peers, and somehow there's a connection that means that they laugh. Even hyenas, they look like they laugh, but their stand-up's terrible. So yeah, I think it's just about being in the moment. I've never stopped it, regardless of what else has gone on in my career. I'll always do stand-up.
Yeah, it's such an incredible special thing, as you mentioned there, to just get one storyteller doing jokes, however they deliver it. Was it always set in stone for you as to how your comedy was going to go, whether you knew you wanted to do one-liners or you knew you wanted to do storytelling, or was it a bit more experimental?
Actually, the kind of stand-up that I do, which is just very me talking about stuff, that's what I always wanted to do. But all the other stuff that I've ended up doing, on radio, I've done stuff that's like silly voices and sketches where I play all the parts and I interact with myself. I never thought of that at all. I never even thought that was a style of comedy, but I just got good at editing. And the next thing, it was an option. And then the TV stuff, especially the MASH stuff, I mean, I can't act, right? Let's be honest about this. Technically, I'm an actor because, I get a credit from that show. But I can do one character, and that is probably enough, because Jack Nicholson basically has a career from doing that. Yeah. So I think I noticed I can sound like a newsreader, so I've just been milking it ever since.
Do you think Jack Nicholson will ever try stand-up?
don't think he needs to anymore.
The Edinburgh Fringe is such a big deal in a comedian's career. What are your previous experiences of doing it?
Well, I did one most of the ones I've done before have been me doing like a review of the year. They're kind of topical, but obviously not that topical because some of the jokes are 11 months old. But a review of the year style, using that as the source material. And the one in 2014 is the reason I got an audition, which then got me on the MASH report. It's the only time I've ever done Edinburgh and not made a huge loss. It's technically paid off. But yeah, this year, it's very different. I'm not doing stuff all about the news. I'm doing stuff all about stuff from my life, which I realise is probably a really silly move. Because in the old days, if someone criticised the show, oh, well, you didn't like the jokes. But now if there's a bad review, I will take it so personally. Oh.
Well, reviewing is a big part of it as well, because people coming in, talking about your show, and you've put your heart and soul into it. And especially this year, it's so personal. Just tell us a little bit more about why.
This year's show is mainly about the fact that both my parents had Alzheimer's. They both passed away in the pandemic during the various lockdowns. But obviously, I've been aware of Alzheimer's in the family for ages. And the thing that's really crystallized it as a thought was the fact that I then had a son. I've got a little 1-year-old who's in the house crying right now, upsetting his mum while I'm out here. But and it's made me think differently about what it's like to be related to people with Alzheimer's. I know it's a bit of a cliche of stand-up these days that you take the least funny topic, the most upsetting and emotional, and then you try and find the jokes in it. And that's kind of what I've done. Having two parents go through the process of, like noticing something's not right, getting the diagnosis, and then seeing. There's a way that I've described it, not in the show because this is really miserable, but when you're related to someone with dementia, it's like an infinite number of tiny griefs. that all add up. So having gone through all that at the end of it, then you look back and realize, no, there are some brilliant moments. I had a better relationship with Dad during those years than I probably had with him ever, because we had no pressure. We just got to hang out together. And there was so much good in there, so many funny things that Dad did that I can take to the stage.
It is a potentially dark theme, as you mentioned there. How do you even begin to make it entertaining?
Well, I think for the actual Edinburgh show, where people will see the title of the show and they'll know what it's about, half the battle's won already. People will only come to a comedy show about Alzheimer's, or with Alzheimer's as a strong theme, if they are willing to hear some jokes about what it's like to be related to people with Alzheimer's. So hopefully half that battle's won. At the previews, though, where people don't know which show they're seeing necessarily, they just come along to watch a preview of an Edinburgh show. You just take a few jokes just to bed in, like, it's okay, we can talk about this. There's light and shade, and we're going to spend a lot of time in the light, don't worry.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, previewing or practicing the show is such an important part of the process, isn't it? How useful are the audiences for you at this point?
Oh, entirely. This is, when you watch an episode of The Apprentice and they invent a product and then they're about to try and sell this product, and for some reason 3 of them go off and do market research when it's way too late. And they speak to members of the public and they go, yeah, this is a terrible product. They can't do anything about it. This is what I'm doing now, but hopefully in the right order. So I'm taking the show in front of people, and you can tell if there's a bit that needs a lot of work. If something needs dropping immediately, I can work on it. It's not like it's too late and I'm already about to do the big presentation.
Yeah, I love going to new material nights and things like that as well, for that exact same reason, because as an audience member, it feels special. It feels like a comedian is going, help me out here. Does it feel nerve-wracking for you to be that vulnerable on stage?
It should, and it used to, but now it doesn't, which I suppose is a terrible sense of, I hope it's not arrogance or anything, but having been through enough times of doing the process, of writing a joke, I'm sure it's funny, I say it out loud, no other human ever finds it funny, I then have to agree with them. But eventually you churn it around to become a set that works. So you've got to go through the failure stage. So I don't take it too personally. Therefore don't feel too vulnerable. I don't know if it's ever possible to get to the stage as a comedian where a joke is funny and you can be sure it'll work. Because if I could do that, then I'm sure I'd be rich enough to retire and never work again, ironically.
Well, you are previewing as part of the festival season that's happening down at Derby's Bar 1, so you're going to be with us on the 23rd of July. You've gigged in Derby before, surely, so what are we like as an audience?
Really good. I mean, I think I get a bit of almost home advantage by being from, I'm admittedly just over the border. I'm a Nottinghamshire lad. But there is something about playing in the East Midlands that it's easier to click into if you are from the East Midlands. I always think the East Midlands is incredibly unrepresented in the rest of the media. You don't see many TV shows like set in the East Midlands. I think it's because people can't do the accent very well. So no one ever writes it. But it does feel great to just go to a bunch of people you'll connect with straight away. And I've done this gig before for previous Edinburghs. It's incredibly useful. And these are people who turn up and watch a selection throughout the day of Edinburgh shows. It's like being in Edinburgh just without that train ticket cost.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, and many other costs that go with it as well, Steve. It's not just that, is it?
So true, yeah.
Well, we wish you well with it. It sounds like it's going to be brilliant. And thanks so much for coming on the show and talking with us about it.
No problem at all. I'll pop along. I think it's 4:50 is when my show's on, and on the 23rd. So come along and see some jokes fail.
And of course we can catch you up in Edinburgh as well. You're going to be at the Gilded Balloon Teviot there in the billiard room there, so 9 o'clock all the way through the festival. We've got the details here at BBC Radio Derby if you fancy popping along to see any of the previews that are taking place throughout July, and I've got more details about it coming up after 12 o'clock on the show today, but for now that's